The Late Late Show with James Corden deletes videos after host calling BTS's appearance at the UN unusual. After BTS' recent presence at the 76th United Nations General Assembly in New York City, CBS's The Late Late Show with James Corden has received a lot of attention. The United Nations General Assembly kicked off this morning in New York City, and it started with some pretty unusual visitors. BTS were there, host James Corden said on the September 20th episode of the United Nations General Assembly kicked off this morning in New York City, and it started with some pretty unusual visitors. BTS were there. BTS visited the UN. Although lots of people are saying why aren't BTS there, the world leaders have no choice but to take BTS seriously. BTS is one of the largest army on the planet Earth. Historic moment. It actually marks the first time that 15-year-old girls everywhere found themselves wishing that they were Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And here's ARMY's reaction. Calling BTS unusual for attending the UN doesn't make any sense. It's their second time visiting, their third time giving a speech. Not to mention they were appointed as presidential envoys by Moon Jae-in himself. And generalizing ARMY as 15-year-olds is the stupidest thing he could say. It's now obvious he was using BTS and ARMYs for clout by kissing up to them whenever they appeared on the show. Hope BTS never feature on this man's show ever again. For those who don't know, James Corden is no longer our pop emoji after using the boys for clout and actively making fun of the fanbase, demoting it from a beautiful, diverse community into a bunch of 15-year-old girls. When the K-pop world will understand that the Americans will always clown them, it'll be a huge step. They welcome them to their shows every time because they see money. This is not surprising to me yet, they have no respect at all, they just care about their audiences. They didn't find it disrespectful until PPL started to speak. In response to the BTS references mentioned above, ARMYs have officially revoked the late night show host's title as pop emoji. James Corden really just came and called us all 15-year-old girls unprovoked. James Corden, as a teenage girl myself, I just want to take a moment to say leave us alone. I'm not brainless for liking a boy band, and neither does me liking a boy band invalidate their achievements. Stop using my gender and age as a way of mocking other people and what they do. James Corden, you better never call yourself an ARMY or pop emoji ever again, you're just like everyone else. When angered ARMYs flooded the video with comments of protest, the video was deleted from the Late Late Show's SNS platforms. James Corden deleted the video. We better get an apology as well. Not at James Corden deleting his tweet like 30 million of us haven't seen it already, so Jimmy Fallon is our new pop emoji, not James Corden. I'm guessing James called it unusual because he thought BTS spoke at the real Unga session, which they did not. They spoke at the SDG moment, not the Unga session. The context of his 15-year-old girls as young fans. He is not insulting ARMYs. I don't think he meant anything bad. I mean, the word unusual can be perceived in many ways. As for calling the fanbase 15 years old, it's called generaling. Though the fanbase is filled with a lot of immature fans, but still it's very stereotypical of him to do that. What do you think of James Corden's recent comments on The Late Late Show?